Chapter 1. Senior brother, wake up, senior brother. Stop yelling, Jiang Minghuan said irritably, clutching his head, which felt like it was about to explode. With master strength, no monster could possibly catch him. There was a brief moment of silence, followed by someone shouting, "Something's wrong. Senior brother has injured his head and is talking nonsense." As the voice faded into the distance, Jiang Minghuan deduced that the person must have run far away. However, that voice didn't sound like any of his junior brothers. No sooner had this thought crossed his mind than a sharp pain split his head, as though it had been cleaved by a blade. Along with the pain came a flood of memories that did not belong to him. In those memories, his name was still Jiang Minghuan, and even his appearance was unchanged. But his identity had shifted from a struggling agricultural graduate student in the modern world to the chief disciple of the Yunji sect. The Yunji sect? Jiang Minghuan froze slightly. Wasn't that the name of the sect in a novel he had just read? A sense of panic crept in as he hastily searched through the memories, only to discover that all the names matched those in the book. The protagonist of the novel was Yuning, the junior disciple of the Yunji sect. His body was originally nothing more than a cannon fodder character, killed by the villain with a single sword strike after appearing for less than 3 chapters. The reason he remembered such an insignificant character was simple. The character shared his exact name. Back then, his junior sister at the Taoist temple had jokingly told him to memorize the entire novel, saying it could serve as a cheat code if he ever transmigrated into the book. What had his reaction been? "Oh," he'd complained lazily. "That'd be great. Then I wouldn't have to guard the experimental fields every day, or worry about my thesis being stolen by some old geezers." And he really had jinxed himself. He wondered how things were going in his original world, now that he had suddenly transmigrated. He had been an abandoned infant, fortunate enough to be taken in by the abbot of a dilapidated Taoist temple. That was how he'd survived and grown up. Later, the abbot adopted other children as well. Though the temple was poor and received little incense money, they managed to scrape by. Now that this had happened, Jiang Minghuan suddenly recalled something. During the National Day holiday, when he'd returned to the temple, his master, usually carefree and unserious, had solemnly told him, "No matter what happens, you must live well." Could it be that master had foreseen this? But master, surviving in a completely unfamiliar world isn't easy. Fortunately, although he hadn't memorized the entire novel, he still remembered several major plot points. That said, the most urgent matter wasn't recalling the plot. It was figuring out how to avoid exposing himself. He was Jiang Minghuan, but not the Jiang Minghuan of this world. He had to be extremely cautious when dealing with everyone in the Yunji sect. Thankfully, he wasn't completely helpless. At the very least, he still had the original owner's memories to rely on. Just as he was sorting through those memories, someone gently touched his forehead and asked with concern, "Senior brother, are you all right? Is something troubling you?" The moment Jiang Minghuan heard that voice, a name surfaced in his mind. Yuning? Whether it was instinct or the need for confirmation, he immediately opened his eyes and looked toward the sound. A delicate, doll-like face came into view. It was indeed Yuning. Jiang Minghuan stared at him blankly without speaking. Yuning immediately said, "Senior brother, wait here. I'll go call my father." Call his father? The sect leader of the Yunji sect? Jiang Minghuan instinctively stopped him. "No need." Yuning hesitated. "Senior brother." Jiang Minghuan took a deep breath. I'm fine. I just have a bit of a headache." As he spoke, he glanced around the room. The furnishings were simple. A table, a chair, a bookshelf, and the bed beneath him. He was currently sitting cross-legged on the bed, clearly in the midst of internal cultivation. This body practiced martial arts. As for why he had transmigrated here, or where the original owner had gone, he had no idea. Yuning still looked worried. "No, it's better to let father take a look." Jiang Minghuan frowned. "Really, there's no need." Yuning sensed the impatience in his tone and was taken aback. "Senior brother." "What's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me like this? Did you really injure your head?" The senior brother he knew would never speak to him in such a manner. Jiang Minghuan's heart tightened. He knew the original owner was deeply in love with Yuning. Yuning occupied more than half of his memories. But those memories weren't his. To him, they were no different from watching a film. He didn't like Yuning, and he wouldn't behave like the original owner. Coupled with his lingering headache, his patience was naturally thin.
He rubbed his forehead, feigning discomfort, and softened his tone.
I don't quite remember what happened. Junior brother, can you tell me?
Yunning hesitated,
Then asked, Senior brother,
do you really not remember anything? Jiang Minghuan shook his head.
not much. I only remember healing myself. I don't recall how I was injured. In truth, he remembered nothing at all. He had merely inferred this from what he'd heard before waking up.
Yunning's eyes flickered.
I see. It's nothing serious. You just got into a fight with someone outside the sect and were injured.
You've been recuperating since you returned. It's been 3 days now. Jiang Minghuan's heart skipped a beat.
Injured? Could the plot have already progressed to the point where Pei Jingyuan appeared? Pei Jingyuan was the greatest villain in the book. Originally Yunning's betrothed.
His entire family had been wiped out when he was 15.
Only Pei Jingyuan survived by faking his death, though he was gravely injured. The once peerless genius lost his cultivation. His meridians shattered, and half his face was disfigured. Clinging to life, Pei Jingyuan went to the Yunji sect for help.
His father had once been close friends with Yun Hemming, the sect leader.
Instead of help, he was cast into deeper despair.
Yun Hemming annulled the engagement and expelled him from the sect,
later accusing the Pei family of colluding with demons.
From that day on, Pei Jingyuan became reviled by the world.
The novel never detailed how he rose again. 11 years later, he founded the Sword Pavilion of Years, shaking the entire cultivation world.
He returned for revenge, but still loved Yunning.
And now, Jiang Minghuan suddenly heard someone shout outside. Senior brother! Senior brother!
Something terrible has happened. He straightened instantly.
The Sword Pavilion of Years. The Sword Pavilion of Years has surrounded our mountain gate.
Jiang Minghuan's eyes widened.
So it begins. Chapter 2.
A relieved smile appeared on Jiang Minghuan's face.
Fortunately, the door was closed at the moment, so the disciples outside couldn't see it. He quickly wiped the smile away, stood up, walked over, and opened the door. Feigning surprise and shock, he asked, What did you say? Why has the Sword Pavilion of Years suddenly come?
Judging from his attire,
the disciple delivering the message was an ordinary outer disciple. He replied somewhat flusteredly, The people from the Sword Pavilion of Years said their pavilion master is coming in person to celebrate Senior Brother Yun's birthday.
Great! This really was a plot point. In the original novel,
Pei Jingyuan used Yunning's birthday celebration as an excuse to appear,
taking the opportunity to demand the fulfillment of the marriage contract.
Jiang Minghuan struggled to suppress his excitement and pretended to be anxious.
Where is Master now?
Where is Junior Brother Yun? The disciple answered immediately. The sect master has already gone to Zhengsheng Hall. Senior brother. Yun seems to be there as well. Perfect. Everyone was already present, so he had to go.
However, Jiang Minghuan soon realized something extremely awkward. He couldn't fly on a sword. Or rather, he had the memory of sword flight, but he had no idea how to actually use it.
His residence was halfway up Wendao Peak, while Zhengsheng Hall, the main hall of the Yunji sect, was located at the summit, which he estimated to be 800 or 900 meters high. There were no cable cars here. If you didn't want to climb, the only option was sword flight. Jiang Minghuan stared silently at the disciple for a long moment, before finally asking gently, Junior brother, how is your sword flying practice? Sword flight was the most basic
technique and one of the
hallmarks of becoming an inner disciple. The disciple paused, then answered cautiously, It's not bad. Jiang Minghuan nodded politely. Then please take me to Zhengsheng.
Hall, I'm still seriously injured and cannot mobilize my Daoyuan.
The disciple was overjoyed. Yes, thank you for your guidance, senior brother. Jiang Minghuan? It felt strange to ask someone for help, and then be thanked for it.
Still, it made sense.
Under normal circumstances,
an ordinary disciple would have almost no chance to escort someone of Jiang
Minghuan's status. He nodded. Wait a moment.
He remembered that in the original story, Jiang Minghuan had drawn his sword against Pei Jingyuan.
Since he was following the plot, he couldn't overlook even the smallest detail. After all, professionalism mattered. He turned back into the room and immediately saw the long sword placed on the bed. The moment he saw it, the words, swallowing whale, surfaced naturally in his mind. When he picked up the sword, it bumped against the pillow, revealing 3 copper coins underneath. Jiang Minghuan's eyes lit up, although he didn't
understand why the original owner would keep copper coins under his pillow in a
cultivation world that commonly used
dogen stones. He immediately picked them up.
After examining them, he found that while these coins differed slightly from those in his original world, their size and shape were similar, only the inscriptions were different. On a whim, he tossed the 3 coins onto the bed.
Looking down, he saw the result.
Heaven and earth in harmony.
All things proceed smoothly. Great fortune.
A smile appeared on Jiang Minghuan's face. When in doubt, turn to metaphysics. Didn't this divination mean everything would go according to his wishes?
He'd grown up in a Taoist temple. While his feng shui skills were mediocre, he was quite confident in his divination. After putting the coins away,
he went outside and said apologetically, "Sorry to keep you waiting." The disciple trembled slightly and cupped his hands. "Senior brother, you flatter me!" At the same time, he felt something was off. In the past, the chief disciple wouldn't spare ordinary disciples a second glance.
Why was he suddenly so polite? Could the rumors be true? Had the eldest brother really suffered brain damage?
If that were the case, it would actually be wonderful. Lost in these thoughts, the disciple summoned his sword, stepped onto it, and said shyly, "Senior brother, my sword isn't very good, but it should still be able to carry 2 people."
Jiang Minghuan glanced at it casually.
"That's fine. Once your cultivation improves, you'll have a better one."
He stepped onto the sword with some hesitation. Just as he felt unsteady, the disciple said, "Senior brother, we're departing."
The moment he finished speaking, the flying sword shot upward. It tilted sharply as it streaked straight toward the mountain peak.
In that instant, Jiang Minghuan's heart leapt into his throat.
Instinctively, he grabbed the waist of the disciple in front of him.
Completely unaware of the way the other person's body stiffened. Meanwhile, the disciple's thoughts were running wild.
Perhaps Senior Brother could fly a sword and was only pretending, just to get closer to him.
Since Senior Brother didn't say anything, he could only pretend not to notice.
And if Senior Brother did say something, well, that wouldn't be so bad either.
Though the chief disciple was arrogant,
he was good-looking, on par with Senior Brother. Yun, and his cultivation, was unmatched among his peers. Otherwise, he wouldn't hold the position of chief disciple. Rumor had it that the sect master was grooming him as the next leader.
If he became Senior Brother's Tao companion in the future,
lost in fantasy, the disciple even dared to lightly touch Jiang Minghuan's hand. Unfortunately, the person being coveted had no such thoughts at all.
Grabbing the disciple's waist had been pure instinct.
If there'd been a dog nearby, Jiang Minghuan would probably have grabbed its ears instead. His mind was screaming, "Master, I want to go home. I'll never steal fish from your lotus pond again. I'll never take my junior brothers and sisters to internet cafes again.
Once I finish my thesis, I'll come back and inherit the Taoist temple."
Sword flight sounded cool.
In theory. In practice, it was a nightmare.
It felt like a roller coaster without safety restraints. No seats, no belts, just a thin sword beneath your feet and a terrifying drop below.
When the sword finally landed, Jiang Minghuan's face was expressionless.
In reality, his mind was blank. It was like flying ahead while your soul lagged behind. He deeply missed the feeling of being firmly on the ground.
Sword flight was impressive, but hopefully there wouldn't be a next time.
Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself and walked forward slowly.
Not because he didn't want to move faster. His legs were still weak. The disciple noticed
Jiang Minghuan hadn't spared him a glance and hesitantly called out, "Senior brother, Jiang Minghuan,"
snapped back to reality, and saw the disciple looking at him with an oddly sticky,
expectant gaze.
Strange, but he had no time to think about it. He nodded. "You can go back now."
Although the disciple wanted to stay,
his status didn't allow him to enter Junction Hall. He glanced at it longingly,
convinced that with Senior Brother's favor,
he would be able to enter someday. He cupped his hands. Yes. As Jiang Minghuan entered the hall, he quickly scanned the situation inside.
Yun Hemming, the sectmaster, sat at the head of the hall, with Yunning standing behind him. Several elders sat below, all wearing grim expressions.
Seeing his chief disciple, Yun Hemming's expression softened slightly.
"Chiwu, what brings you here? Are your injuries better?" Jiang Minghuan paused, then remembered that Chiwu was his courtesy name.
He bowed. "Thank you for your concern, Master."
"I am much better. However, regarding the sword pavilion of years..." Before Yun Hemming could speak,
Yunning interrupted angrily. "Father!"
"The sword pavilion of years has gone too far. We cannot tolerate such arrogance." "That may not be entirely accurate," an elder said calmly.
"They did submit their visiting cards properly."
"They are simply young and impetuous." Jiang Minghuan recognized The speaker as Yun Hemming's senior brother, the strongest among the elders.
Yun Hemming frowned.
Visiting is one thing.
Blocking the mountain gate is another.
It's fine, the first elder said.
Glancing at Yuning, he is destined to become the sect master's son-in-law.
As elders we can teach him, Jiang Minghuan thought silently. You folded quickly for an elder. Yunning stepped forward anxiously. You... Ninger, step back, Yun Hemming said firmly.
Reluctantly, Yuning retreated and glanced at Jiang Minghuan,
hoping for support, but Jiang Minghuan was staring at the ground, detached. Yuning pursed his lips.
His senior brother had changed. Yun Hemming spoke again.
Although Pei Jingyuan has been cleared of suspicion, his rapid rise in cultivation is dangerous. For the sake of the sect, I will never agree to this marriage. The engagement has already been dissolved.
Elders, do not raise this matter again.
Dissolved? Someone scoffed. Then why does Pei Jingyuan still hold the engagement token? Yun Hemming's expression darkened. He claimed the jade pendant was damaged. I believed him. I was wrong. Another elder sneered. Now that he's come knocking, you'll need a way to silence public opinion.
What's difficult about that? Someone said coldly.
At worst, call him a traitor. Jiang Minghuan listened carefully. Just as Yun Hemming was about to respond, a disciple rushed in, panicked. Sect Master, something terrible has happened. Pei Jingyuan is here.
Yun Hemming's expression changed.
Didn't the Sword Pavilion of Years say they'd arrive tomorrow?
A calm voice sounded from outside.
My master and young Master Yun haven't seen each other for many years. We arrived early to renew old ties. A sloppily dressed middle-aged man carrying a sword walked in.
Jiang Minghuan recognized him immediately. Gu Xuanli, the Myriad Phases swordmaster, the strongest beneath Pei Jingyuan.
Jiang Minghuan raised his voice. Where is Pavilion Master Pei? Gu Xuanli replied lazily. He awaits Sect Master Yun at Baosong Pavilion.
100 miles away.
What arrogance!
Jiang Minghuan said sharply. Why didn't he come in person?
Gu Xuanli lifted his eyes.
Before leaving,
my master swore he would never step foot in the Yunji sect again. Unless what? Jiang Minghuan pressed. Unless it was time to raze it to the ground? The hall erupted in fury.
An elder slammed the table.
Insolent brat!
Swordlight flashed. The elder was hurled into the wall, coughing blood.
Gu Xuanli sheathed his sword calmly. Disrespecting the pavilion master deserves death. This time I spare you.
Goodness, he really nailed the villainous vibe.
Jiang Minghuan looked at Yun Hemming, whose expression was unreadable. Everyone knew that Pei Jingyuan and the sword,
Pavilion of Years indeed, possessed the strength to crush
the Yunji sect.
After a moment, just as Gu Xuanli was beginning to grow impatient,
Yun Hemming slowly stood up and said, Isn't it a pleasure to welcome friends from afar? Since Pavilion Master Pei is at Baosong Pavilion, I will go and meet him.
If Yun Hemming was going, Yuning would certainly follow.
And Jiang Minghuan, as the chief disciple,
naturally had to go as well. The other elders were reluctant, but Yun Hemming blocked their retreat.
Since they were receiving distinguished guests, everyone had to attend. Otherwise, how could they demonstrate the importance the Yunji sect placed on this visit? Seeing the first elder's miserable condition,
the other elders wisely fell silent and followed along. Jiang Minghuan felt rather helpless as they set out. He didn't know how to fly on a sword.
So how exactly was he supposed to get down the mountain? Fortunately, since this was a group outing, not everyone needed to rely on sword flight. Le Yuning took out a flying boat instead and carried everyone together. After landing, the Yunji sect party could see the sedan chair from afar.
Surrounded by disciples of the Sword Pavilion of Years,
Gu Xuanli, the Myriad Faces swordmaster, stepped forward and announced, Sect Master, the sect master of the Yunji sect and the elders have come to greet you.
The sword-bearing attendants on either side of the sedan chair lifted the curtain,
revealing the figure inside.
Jiang Minghuan finally saw this villain for the first time. The man had long silver-white hair bound with a jade crown. He wore a dark green robe, its hem embroidered with dark gold mountain and river patterns. A silver mask concealed his face, revealing only a pair of gold and crimson eyes. Just sitting there, he exuded an aura of profound composure and overwhelming authority. He glanced at Yun Hemming but did not rise. Instead, he slowly lifted his teacup. The moment he took a sip, a very young voice rang out. Holy crap, is that a sedan chair? That's ridiculously luxurious. Did they move their entire room over here? No wonder they're villains. Their entourage is massive. What a pity. If this were another story, he could have been a legendary, overpowered protagonist whose engagement got broken off.
Here he can only be the villain. Huh?
Chapter 3.
Pei Jingyuan swept his gaze across the hall, searching for the source of the voice.
It was a very strange voice. It did not come from anyone's mouth,
but instead seemed to echo directly within one's heart. The voice did not sound again, which only deepened his interest.
He wondered what kind of villain the speaker was referring to.
Could this be the special person that stinking Taoist priest had spoken of? Just as Pei Jingyuan was searching for clues, Yun Hemming finally spoke.
Instead of offering a greeting, however, he asked coldly,
"Why has Pavilion Master Pei come uninvited?" Pei Jingyuan replied casually, "What did Sect Master Yun say? I didn't hear you clearly."
Yun Hemming felt the powerful
aura and faint yet razor-sharp sword intent radiating from him and was startled.
Suppressing his anger, he said,
"Pei Jingyuan, my Yunji sect and your sword pavilion of years have neither past grudges nor present enmity."
"Why do you repeatedly humiliate my Yunji sect?"
Standing to the side, Jiang Minghuan immediately noticed that Yun Hemming had already softened his stance, even without any memories from the original owner. He knew that in a confrontation,
the one who asked why was usually the weaker party. Before Pei Jingyuan could respond, the voice rang out again.
"No past grudges, no present enmity. What kind of selective amnesia is this? Weren't you the one who kicked Pei Jingyuan while he was down? Expelled him after he was gravely injured? And even framed his parents as demonic cultivators?"
The corners of Pei Jingyuan's lips curved faintly beneath the silver
mask, though no one noticed.
He had found the owner of the voice.
"Since there are no past grudges or present enmity," Pei Jingyuan said coolly, "why does Sect Master Yun behave as though facing a formidable enemy? Is this how the Yunji sect treats its guests?" As he spoke, his gaze drifted toward the young man standing behind Yun Hemming.
The purple robe of a chief disciple was unmistakable.
So this must be Jiang Minghuan, Yun Hemming's personal disciple.
Pei Jingyuan remembered him as well.
Rumor claimed he was upright and gentle,
but in Pei Jingyuan's eyes,
he was despicable, a textbook hypocrite. Back then,
it was this very person who had personally thrown him out of the Yunji sect's gates.
At that moment, everyone in the main hall, from Yun Hemming to the lowest
disciples, stood tense and silent.
Only Pei Jingyuan appeared detached, as if he were merely waiting for something to unfold. That stinking Taoist priest had finally gotten a divination right. Otherwise, why would he bother coming personally to deal with the Yunji sect?
Meanwhile, Jiang Minghuan was silently commenting while observing the sedan chair.
It was fully furnished. A tea table, a writing desk, a bookshelf.
Even a display shelf.
It truly looked like a miniature room. Just as he was observing with curiosity, he accidentally met Pei Jingyuan's gaze. One gold eye, one crimson. Those eyes seemed to pierce through all illusions and look straight into the heart. Jiang Minghuan hurriedly looked away, feeling inexplicably guilty.
Yun Hemming remained silent.
Pei Jingyuan's counterattack had left him speechless.
No matter what he said, it would only lead to more trouble. He could only glance at the second elder beside him. The second elder inwardly cursed his bad luck, but had no choice but to step forward.
The Yunji sect has its own etiquette for receiving guests. However, we see no need to extend courtesy to an unwelcome visitor. The first elder is already a cautionary tale. Second elder, are you really this stubborn? Upon hearing the voice, Pei Jingyuan's gaze swept lightly across Jiang Minghuan. Sure enough, this person was no longer the same as before. But how had he changed?
Possession?
As Pei Jingyuan pondered, Gu Xuanli once again drew his longsword. Fortunately, the second elder had been prepared, though he was still sent flying.
His injuries were far lighter than the first elder's.
Gu Xuanli merely glanced at him, sheathed his blade, and said flatly,
"Anyone who disrespects
the pavilion master again will not be spared with a single sword strike." The other elders froze, none daring to speak. Yun Hemming, meanwhile, was calculating how to preserve his reputation as sect master. He finally said slowly, "Sect Master Pei is indeed domineering." Pei Jingyuan did not respond.
He merely offered a perfunctory rebuke. "Mind your manners."
"Do not be rude." Gu Xuanli stood silently, sword in hand, as if he had not just struck someone down.
Swift as a rabbit, still as a virgin. But unfortunately,
the execution was a bit too crude, lacking elegance. After that one sentence, Pei Jingyuan said nothing more, not even sparing the second elder a glance. Changing performance. What a pity you and the others aren't here. If I were Pei Jingyuan, I'd definitely ask, "Old Dung, why were you so arrogant earlier and so obsequious now?" Pei Jingyuan chuckled softly, then suddenly asked, "Sect Master Yun, why were you so arrogant earlier
and so obsequious now. After speaking, he glanced at Jiang Minghuan and saw his eyes widen in shock.
Though he tried to hide it, nothing escaped Pei Jingyuan's notice. Jiang Minghuan was indeed surprised. He distinctly remembered that the original story's lines hadn't gone like this.
Had he remembered wrong? He turned to Yun Hemming and found that despite being openly confronted, Yun Hemming remained unruffled. Indeed, Yun Hemming was flexible and adaptable. He said mildly, "Earlier, this uncle felt you were somewhat impolite.
Upon reflection, however, you are still young. It is natural to be less thorough in your conduct."
Oh, there is no need to be overly strict. Jiang Minghuan glanced at Yun Hemming,
Then at the second elder, meditating on the ground, and suddenly felt a surge of pity. The elder had been forced to step forward, yet Yun Hemming clearly didn't care about him at all.
And then there was the first elder as well, both in miserable states. Of course, Jiang Minghuan dared not interfere.
All he wanted now was for the plot to progress so he could leave as soon as possible. Pei Jingyuan did not miss the fleeting sympathy in his eyes. It felt strangely out of place, like spotting a lone dog among a pack of wolves.
He said slowly, deliberately,
"If Sectmaster Yun says so,
"Then it would be truly impolite of me not to request your guidance."
Yun Hemming's expression stiffened. This was no request for etiquette. It was a challenge, even though he tried to avoid it. Pei Jingyuan clearly intended to vent his anger today.
There was no escaping it.
Though Yun Hemming was a generation older,
he dared not claim he could defeat Pei Jingyuan. Along the way, Pei Jingyuan had created countless legends.
The first cultivator to reach the extreme of Foundation establishment,
the first Golden Core cultivator in history, and now, the youngest nascent soul cultivator.
His strength matched his titles. If even the elders
could not withstand a single sword.
From the Swordmaster of 10,000 Phases, how could Yun Hemming be confident he could? In the heavy silence, Jiang Minghuan knew it was time for him to step in again. Yun Ning's gaze was already drifting toward him. "Pavilion Master Pei," Jiang Minghuan said, "I presume you did not come merely to seek guidance from our sect master."
"If you have a purpose, please speak plainly." The moment he spoke, Pei Jingyuan looked straight at him, making his scalp tingle.
"So the original owner really was an accomplice, throwing him out and insulting him. Am I about to be beaten to death?"
Can villains really spare lives?
Pei Jingyuan stared at him for a long moment, then made a decision.
Instead of pressing him, he said calmly, "It's nothing serious. I simply remembered that today is Aining's birthday, so I came to deliver a gift."
A sword attendant stepped forward and presented a box to Yun Ning. Yun Ning looked fearfully at Pei Jingyuan, then at his father.
Yun Hemming nodded.
With no choice, Yun Ning accepted the box,
bowed stiffly and said, "Thank you."
"Brother Pei, aren't you going to open it?"
Pei Jingyuan asked.
Under his gaze, Yun Ning cautiously lifted the lid, revealing a blood-stained jade pendant. Yun Hemming's expression changed instantly. "This is," Pei Jingyuan said softly, "back then, Sect Master Yun and my father made a marriage agreement. Many years have passed, and Aining has grown up. It is time to fulfill it." The voice rang out again. Sigh. Such a ruthless villain. Yet he fell in love with Yun Ning. If he hadn't
insisted on forcing the marriage,
he wouldn't have met such a tragic end.
"No," Yun Hemming blurted out.
Pei Jingyuan's tone turned cold. "Sect Master Yun, are you breaking the contract?" Yun Hemming felt Pei Jingyuan's sword intent lock onto him. One wrong word, and blood would surely be spilled.
He forced a smile.
"Xiaoyuan, you misunderstand. Though there was an engagement, marriage should be based on mutual affection."
"I've been thinking of Aining day and night all these years."
Pei Jingyuan interrupted gently.
Yun Ning's face turned pale. Back then, when Pei Jingyuan came injured and seeking help, Yun
Ning had mocked him as an ugly monster, a cursed star who destroyed his entire clan.
Who could have imagined he would rise again?
The Pei family was wiped out. How had he alone survived? "How could you have lived?" Yun Ning cried in panic. "You were so badly injured!"
"Who knows if you colluded with demons?"
Pei Jingyuan's gaze sharpened, though his voice remained gentle. "Oh, do you have evidence? This concerns my reputation. If Aining is merely speaking nonsense, I will not let it pass." Yun Ning staggered back, instantly realizing his mistake. He looked helplessly at Yun Hemming. "Father."
Yun Hemming remained silent.
Looking around, Yun Ning saw that the senior disciples avoided his gaze,
while the juniors trembled.
At last, his eyes fell on Jiang Minghuan. "Senior brother," he pleaded, tugging at Jiang Minghuan's sleeve. Jiang Minghuan took a deep breath.
It was finally his turn to step onto the stage.
Chapter 4.
Jiang Minghuan stepped forward, blocking Yunning, and said righteously,
Secmaster Pei, you and Aining dissolved your engagement long ago.
Why force the issue again?
Pei Jingyuan watched him with great interest. The young man's words and thoughts clearly did not align. Oh, here it comes, here it comes. I hope this handsome villain goes easy on me later.
Sigh. I guess I'll have to be a little tougher. Otherwise, I won't even be able to crawl home and inherit my family fortune.
Pei Jingyuan asked calmly, The engagement tokens are right here.
When was the engagement dissolved?
How is it that I never heard of this? Jiang Minghuan forced himself to look furious. I don't know how you kept this jade pendant, but the entire Yunji sect witnessed the dissolution of the engagement back then. You also promised never to disturb Aining again in this life.
And now you go back on your word. Utterly shameless.
When Pei Jingyuan heard him mention the past, his gaze darkened. Then another voice sounded, Oh my god, did I say the right lines? His eyes can kill!
Am I even going to survive? I followed the script perfectly. It's fine, it's fine.
Pei Jingyuan's surging malice paused,
hearing so many unfamiliar thoughts from the other party.
He suddenly changed his mind.
He rose abruptly from the sedan chair.
Stepping down, his gold and crimson eyes locked onto Jiang Minghuan as he approached, one step at a time. Are you standing up for him? He asked.
Fear flickered through Jiang Minghuan. He instinctively took half a step back, then remembered his assigned role. Devoted, loyal, willing to die for Yunning. He steadied himself and said firmly,
I only wish to reason with Pavilion Master Pei. Please, just draw your sword and give me a clean death. I want no part in your mess with Yunning. Pei Jingyuan stopped in front of him.
They stood so close that Jiang Minghuan could hear his breathing.
Completely overshadowed, Jiang Minghuan had no choice but to lift his chin slightly, forcing himself to meet Pei Jingyuan's gaze. Pei Jingyuan stared at him for a long moment.
Then he suddenly reached out, pinched Jiang Minghuan's chin, leaned closer and laughed.
Very well, he said lightly.
Then you can marry him in his place. After saying that, he released Jiang Minghuan and turned away.
I'll come to marry you in 3 days. Be prepared. Huh? What?
Wait, come back. Jiang Minghuan stood there, eyes wide, watching as Pei Jingyuan returned to the sedan chair.
The sword attendant lowered the veil, and the enormous chair rose steadily into the air. One by one, the disciples of the Sword Pavilion of Years followed,
flying away on their swords. He instinctively took a step forward, but Yunning grabbed his sleeve. Senior brother, you mustn't, Yunning said anxiously.
Jiang Minghuan slowly turned to look at him.
Yunning hesitated, then released his grip and said softly,
That person is very fierce. I'm afraid. If you chase after him, senior brother,
he might attack you. Jiang Minghuan forced a smile.
Is that so?
Thank you for your concern, junior brother.
Just remember to warn me.
Earlier next time. Otherwise,
people might misunderstand and think.
You're worried.
Pavilion Master Pei might change his mind.
Yunning stiffened, clearly uncomfortable.
I didn't. Senior brother, please don't wrong me. Yun Hemming, who had remained silent all this time, finally spoke. Chiwu, I know this is a great humiliation for you, but for the sake of the lives of everyone in the Yunji sect,
we can only endure for now.
Rest assured, I will find evidence of Pei Jingyuan colluding with demons. When that day comes, I will summon the major sects, purge the Sword Pavilion of Years, and welcome you back. The position of Yunji Sect Master will belong to you. As soon as he finished, the other disciples hurriedly echoed him. Yes, senior brother, please save us. I'll never compete with you for chief disciple again. The future sect master can only be senior brother.
Jiang Minghuan almost asked, Do you really think Pei Jingyuan will let any of you go?
But seeing their ugly faces, especially Yun Hemming, trembling with fear yet still,
clinging to his authority, he lost all interest in speaking. He said nothing and followed them back through the mountain gate. When he first arrived, he thought he'd endure a little suffering and then return home to
enjoy wealth and leisure. Now the suffering was gone, but his heart hurt instead. Back in his residence,
he pulled out 3 copper coins and slammed them onto the table.
What happened to the promised good fortune?
Fraud. This was clearly a terrible omen. After a long silence, he picked them up again, frowning.
Could it be that divination doesn't work in the cultivation world? Unwilling to believe it, he cast them again. Heaven and earth in harmony. Everything auspicious. Still favorable. Jiang Minghuan stared at the coins for a long time.
What kind of good fortune was this supposed to be?
Marrying Pei Jingyuan was absolutely not a good thing. According to the original book,
Pei Jingyuan became capricious due to childhood,
trauma, and flawed cultivation methods. though, that cruelty was directed only at outsiders. Within the Sword Pavilion, he was revered like a god.
Gu Xuanli's behavior proved that much. Unfortunately, even if Jiang Minghuan married him,
Pei Jingyuan would never treat him as one of his own.
Worse still, the villain would die at the protagonist's
hands 10 years later.
Even if Jiang Minghuan survived until then,
No one would treat him as an innocent bystander.
after 10 years in the Sword Pavilion.
As for Yun Hemming's promises, not a single word was worth believing. Jiang Minghuan stared out the window, deeply troubled.
He couldn't run.
He had cultivation, but didn't know how to use it, no better than an ordinary person. If he stayed here much longer, he'd be exposed.
Thinking about it that way,
Going to the Sword Pavilion might not be the worst option.
at least no one there knew him.
He rubbed the copper coin between his fingers and sighed. This is the last time I'll trust you. If you're wrong again, never mind.
There's no turning back anyway. Once he accepted that, his heart strangely calmed. He was already dead once.
Transmigrating into this book was an accident. If he died again, perhaps he'd return home. At least he'd seen the cultivation world before dying.
While Jiang Minghuan came to terms with his fate, the Yunji sect remained restless.
Every day, someone lingered outside his door, sweeping, searching for lost items, or pretending to pass by. Jiang Minghuan was too lazy to expose them. Let them be afraid. On the day before the 3-day deadline, Yunning finally appeared. "Senior brother," he said to an outer disciple, I've brought your auspicious robes."
Jiang Minghuan forced a smile.
"Then I really must thank you, junior brother. If I can't argue with you, I can at least be sarcastic."
After a long silence, Yunning asked softly,
"Senior brother, do you hate me?"
Jiang Minghuan replied in the original owner's gentle tone. "What have you done wrong, junior brother? Why would anyone hate you?"
"I feel the same as always." Yunning hesitated, then sat down across from him. "But you haven't come to see me these past 2 days."
"If I saw you, I'd probably want to strangle you," Jiang Minghuan thought.
Aloud, he only sighed. "It's not that I didn't want to come. I was afraid you'd misunderstand."
"You're so kind and care so much about me. What if you impulsively decided to fulfill your engagement?"
"With Pavilion Master Pei." Yunning froze.
After a pause, he said,
"Senior brother, you must stay strong.
"If we find evidence of Pei Jingyuan colluding with demons,
Father will surely rescue you."
Jiang Minghuan sneered inwardly.
"And how am I supposed to pass the message when I'm being watched?" Yunning gestured to the outer disciple nearby. "Eiwu will accompany you. If you find anything, give it to him."
After finishing his sentence, Yunning added,
"Senior brother, it's not that Father doesn't trust you.
"It's just that we don't know what Pei Jingyuan is planning.
His sudden choice of you must be part of some scheme.
Once you arrive, he will definitely have people watching you. For your safety, we can't let you personally deliver the message. My safety is my safety, but an outer disciple's safety doesn't count."
Who said Pei Jingyuan would only keep an eye on me? Does the Time Sword Pavilion have only one pavilion master? He could easily send a few people to watch those outer disciples as well. This so-called search for evidence was nothing but an excuse.
What they really wanted was to frame someone.
In the original book, Yunning pretended to submit to Pei Jingyuan in order to lower his guard, then fabricated evidence of collusion with demons,
Turning the Year's Sword Pavilion into the enemy of the entire cultivation world. Yet when this plot point appeared,
the author never explained how Yunning forged the evidence, nor why Pei Jingyuan let his guard down.
based on Pei,
Jingyuan's characterization in the earlier half of the story, meticulous, ruthless,
and cautious, there was no way Yunning could have hidden anything from him. How could someone like that be abandoned by the world so easily?
Ah, right. It seemed that readers had complained about this at the time. Prosthesis was sent, accusing the author of writing Pei Jingyuan out of character.
To smooth things over, the author later added an explanation. Pei Jingyuan was heartbroken because he couldn't be with the one he loved.
So he simply gave up resisting. Unfortunately, no one seemed convinced by that explanation either. "Senior brother?"
Senior brother.
Yunning's voice snapped Jiang Minghuan back to reality. Jiang Minghuan hesitated deliberately, then said with a troubled expression, "If something happens to this outer disciple, then even if I obtain evidence, I won't be able to send it out. Worse still, Pei Jingyuan could use that against me."
At that point, the Yunji sect would truly be in danger.
"Junior brother, Master must have taught him some special method to preserve his life, right?" Yunning froze.
How could his father possibly have prepared him?
Life-saving method for an outer disciple? If an outer disciple died, then so be it.
But he couldn't afford to upset Jiang Minghuan now. Gritting his teeth, he said,
Yes, senior brother. Don't worry. Father has made all the necessary arrangements. Jiang Minghuan nodded and didn't press the issue further.
He was already in dire straits himself.
This was all he could do for that innocent outer disciple. Seeing this, Yunning finally let out a breath of relief and continued soothing him.
When everything is settled, senior brother will become a great hero of the cultivation world.
Father will personally come to bring you home.
Jiang Minghuan replied blandly.
I hope so.
Yunning stood up.
Then I won't disturb senior brother's cultivation any longer. Oh, right. Senior brother, Pavilion Master Pei is domineering by nature.
He likely won't allow you to bring weapons into the Time Sword Pavilion, especially
your whale-swallowing blade. Jiang Minghuan's expression instantly sharpened.
What's wrong with the whale-swallowing blade? Yunning looked embarrassed.
It's nothing. I just thought,
perhaps senior brother could entrust it to me for safekeeping.
Jiang Minghuan asked slowly.
To junior brother wants to practice saber techniques.
Isn't it a little late to switch cultivation paths now? You're more likely to go astray.
That's not it. Yunning said hastily. I truly just want to keep the whale-swallowing blade safe for senior brother.
Jiang Minghuan looked at him with mild curiosity.
Junior brother, since when did you learn sword nurturing techniques?
Listen to your senior brother. This blade is not easy to nurture.
As for swallowing whales, if it really comes to that,
I can entrust it to other junior brothers and sisters who practice saber arts.
Yunning immediately grew anxious.
Give it to me.
I'll return it once senior brother comes back.
If you give it to someone else, I'm afraid you won't be able to retrieve it. If I give it to you, Jiang Minghuan thought calmly, then I really won't be able to retrieve it. Don't think I don't know your beloved uses a saber. By now, Yunning and Jiang Zhou should have already met. At present, Jiang Zhou was nothing more than a down-and-out rogue cultivator, and the blade in his hand was of poor quality. The Yunji sect had plenty of weapons, but anything even remotely decent was registered and forbidden to outsiders.
Even as the sect master's son, Yunning couldn't openly take them.
So now his eyes were on this blade.
In the original story, after Jiang Minghuan's cultivation was crippled, he handed the blade to Yunning
for safekeeping, who promptly passed it on to Jiang Zhou. But now, even before his cultivation was destroyed, Yunning had already set his sights on it. They were treating him as a dead man. He hadn't been exposed yet. In Yunning's eyes, he was still the same senior brother, the childhood companion he'd grown up with.
That made this all the more chilling. Jiang Minghuan stared at Yunning for a long time. Then he suddenly laughed.
Junior brother makes a good point, he said lightly. In that case, I should bring the blade with me. Pavilion Master Pei's cultivation is profound, and he has countless experts under his command. There's no reason he wouldn't even allow me to carry a blade. Yunning stared at him in disbelief.
He couldn't understand why this senior brother, who had always indulged every
one of his requests,
was rejecting him again and again.
Jiang Minghuan sat cross-legged on the bed, closed his eyes, and said calmly,
I'm going to cultivate now.
Junior brother, please return.
After a long silence, Yunning spoke unwillingly.
Senior brother, this blade was a gift from father.
It should count as a weapon of the Yunji sect. You can't...
Jiang Minghuan abruptly opened his eyes. His gaze was sharp and cold. Are you saying Master wants me to go alone, without even a weapon? Without waiting for a response, he stood and walked out. Yunning panicked and grabbed his sleeve. Senior brother, where are you going? To ask Master whether this is truly his intention, Jiang Minghuan said without turning his head. If Master gives the order, I naturally wouldn't dare disobey. In his panic, Yunning yanked too hard, nearly pulling Jiang Minghuan down.
Jiang Minghuan turned back slowly.
Junior brother,
are you trying to stop me from seeing Master?
Yunning immediately released him. No. This has nothing to do with father. I was just speaking impulsively. Since senior brother doesn't wish it, then forget it.
I'll take my leave.
He fled in haste.
Jiang Minghuan watched his retreating figure, eyes lowered. After a while, he turned toward the outer disciple standing nearby. The outer disciple immediately lowered his head, not daring to meet his gaze.
This senior brother was nothing like the rumors described. Jiang Minghuan said gently, I need your help finding a junior brother who can fly on a sword. I have urgent business with the sect master. The outer disciple nodded frantically and quickly, found an inner disciple skilled in sword flight.
Soon, Jiang Minghuan was on his way to the Hall of Righteousness. The more Yunning wanted the blade, the less he would give it to him.
Not only would he refuse, he would also make Yunning pay a hefty price. After all, Yunning was the one who should have married Pei Jingyuan, since Jiang Minghuan was taking the blame for him. Taking a little interest in return was only fair. Chapter 5. When Jiang Minghuan arrived at Dao Questioning Peak, Yun Hemming was in the midst of handling sect affairs.
Upon seeing him, Yun Hemming paused briefly, then smiled.
Chiwu, what brings you here?
Jiang Minghuan returned the smile, gentle and respectful.
I'll be heading to the Time Sword Pavilion tomorrow.
I had some free time today, so I came to see you once more.
Yun Hemming immediately put on a sorrowful, reluctant expression. Alas, it is I who have wronged you. Back then, I could already see that
Pei Jingyuan was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Never a good person.
I spared his life only because his father once shared some friendship with me.
Had I known things would turn out like this,
I should have killed him with my own hands.
Jiang Minghuan clenched his teeth inwardly. What a way with words, this old fox. Back then, Yun Hemming hadn't.
Spared Pei Jingyuan out of mercy, he'd simply thought the man wouldn't live long. His appearance had been half ruined, his injuries severe.
Yun Hemming had merely waited for him to die on his own.
If he were truly virtuous, he would have taken Pei Jingyuan in, guided him properly, and led him onto the righteous path. In truth, Pei Jingyuan hadn't gone astray at all. Otherwise, how could the so-called righteous factions of the cultivation world have tolerated him for so long?
But aloud, Jiang Minghuan only said,
You're too kind-hearted. Who could have imagined he would make such a comeback?
Fortunately, Junior Brother was saved.
But Pavilion Master Pei seems deeply infatuated with him.
Although I don't know why he changed his mind before. I fear he won't let go so easily now.
Yun Hemming ground his teeth.
We must find proof that he is a demon. As he spoke, he grabbed Jiang Minghuan's hand tightly.
Chiwu, the Time Sword Pavilion is heavily guarded. Over the years, everyone I sent has failed to infiltrate it. Now, we can only rely on you. Jiang Minghuan's expression turned solemn.
Sect Master, rest assured, I will do my utmost. However, Pei Jingyuan is known as the #1 genius of the human race. Though his actions are unpredictable, he has always acted chivalrously.
Is he truly capable of colluding with demons? What #1 genius?
Yun Hemming sneered.
If he weren't connected to the demonic path,
how could his cultivation advance so quickly?
I've heard that every 15th day of the month, he becomes so enraged that he must draw his sword and drink blood to calm himself. What kind of righteous cultivation method is that? That's called inner demons, Jiang Minghuan thought calmly. Of course, if one insisted that inner demons were still demons, then perhaps it wasn't entirely sophistry.
He nodded hesitantly.
But, Sect Master, this journey to the Time Sword Pavilion will surely be dangerous. I truly cannot leave the whale-swallowing blade with Junior Brother.
In case of emergencies, I can at least use it to defend myself.
Oh, Ning! Yun Hemming frowned in confusion.
What does he want with the whale-swallowing blade?
Jiang Minghuan shook his head, looking puzzled. I don't know either.
Today, Junior Brother came to me and said that the Time Sword Pavilion would
certainly forbid me from bringing weapons, but I thought, if I insist, perhaps they would make an exception. I'm the only one in the sect capable of controlling the whale-swallowing blade, so I hope to take it for protection. Yet, Junior Brother seemed rather unhappy.
Yun Hemming's face darkened instantly. That child is being utterly ridiculous.
At Yunning's age, changing cultivation paths would mean dispersing his cultivation and starting over.
No different from ruining his future. Having applied his eye drops, Jiang Minghuan felt refreshed.
He hadn't lied. Yunning had been searching for a good weapon, just not for himself. He was looking for one suitable for Jiang Zhou. Yunning believed he was discreet, but if Yun Hemming truly investigated, he would uncover everything. Jiang Zhou, that bastard, would surface soon enough, if Jiang Minghuan remembered correctly.
Jiang Zhou was also disfigured at this point in the story.
Yun Hemming would never approve of such a match. Come to think of it, did Yunning have some strange buff? Why were all the people emotionally entangled with him disfigured? Oh, Jiang Minghuan hadn't been disfigured.
He'd simply died. Still, Jiang Minghuan's purpose today wasn't merely to pit Yun Hemming against Yunning. He was laying groundwork for what came next. Yun Hemming looked at him and said, "You don't know when you'll return. The Time Sword Pavilion won't treat you kindly, but don't worry.
Your master has already prepared things for you."
He handed over a jade pendant.
Only after taking it did Jiang Minghuan realize it was a storage artifact. Storage artifacts shaped like jade pendants were exceedingly rare. The smaller the artifact, the smaller its capacity, or so common sense dictated.
Yet this pendant possessed remarkable capacity.
By conservative estimates,
It alone was worth at least 50,000 Daoyuan stones. In the cultivation world,
Daoyuan stones were the true hard
currency, capable of assisting cultivation,
and rapidly replenishing spiritual essence
an essential item for cultivation, travel.
and murder.
Just this pendant alone was already a tidy profit. Though Jiang Minghuan didn't yet know how to open it, he was certain it wouldn't be empty.
He put it on and said confidently, "Secmaster, rest assured, as long as the intelligence is accurate, I will definitely uncover proof that Pei Jingyuan has fallen to demonic ways."
Good, good.
Yun Hemming said with satisfaction. "Once we have evidence, I'll immediately bring you back. At that time, I can also pass the position of sect master to you and enter seclusion in peace."
Jiang Minghuan looked visibly excited.
Inwardly, he scoffed. Yun Hemming had clung to power for decades. The reason Yunji,
Sect's elders were replaced. Every 2 years was simple. He'd killed them all, one way or another.
let him make empty promises. Jiang Minghuan wasn't planning on swallowing them. The whale-swallowing blade and the jade pendant were the real gains today. Yun Hemming trusted his chief disciple deeply. Years of upbringing,
Coupled with Jiang Minghuan's unwavering devotion to Yunning, had erased all suspicion.
He did find one thing strange, however. Today, Jiang Minghuan hadn't called him master even once, only sect master. Still resentful over being forced into a substitute marriage, Yun Hemming concluded, but too afraid to say it aloud.
No matter, once the Time Sword Pavilion is dealt with, Jiang Minghuan can die in an accident.
He felt some reluctance.
After all, Jiang Minghuan was talented, carefully nurtured over many years.
But once disloyalty sprouted, there was no need to keep him. What Yun Hemming never imagined was that the disciple before him had already been replaced. Jiang Minghuan had a master who raised him from childhood, a master in name.
A father in truth.
How could he call anyone else master? Did Yun Hemming deserve it? When Jiang Minghuan returned to his residence, he saw the outer disciple Yunning had brought earlier lingering at the entrance.
Upon seeing him, the disciple immediately bowed. Greetings, Chief Jiang.
Outer disciples weren't
Considered formal disciples and couldn't
yet address him as senior brother. Jiang Minghuan asked, "What are you doing here?" The disciple answered cautiously, "Chief Jiang, young Master Yun sent me. He's been punished, sent to the back mountain to reflect on his actions. He asked you to find a way to save him." Jiang Minghuan suppressed a smile and feigned concern.
reflect on his actions.
"For how long?"
What happened? Did he anger the sect master again? The disciple shook his head.
"I don't know. Young Master Yun left in a hurry. I only heard that he must face the wall."
Until he breaks through his cultivation. Before he's allowed to leave.
Jiang Minghuan sighed. "I just returned from the sectmaster's place. I heard nothing of this. You and I leave tomorrow. Even if we wanted to plead now, it would be too late. Go back first."
I'll think of another way.
The disciple nodded, then hesitated and whispered, "Thank you, Chief Jiang."
For speaking up for me.
Jiang Minghuan smiled gently. "Once you go with me to the Time Sword Pavilion,
We'll be relying on each other to survive.
the safer you are, the less I'll have to worry." The disciple bowed deeply and left.
Watching his retreating figure, Jiang Minghuan sighed. If he truly failed and escaped alone, this outer disciple would be in grave danger.
This was the only compensation he could offer. Turning back into his courtyard, he recalled the news and couldn't help smiling.
Yun Hemming works fast. If he wasn't mistaken, the adulterer had already been discovered.
Previously, reflection punishments always had fixed durations.
This time, requiring a breakthrough before release was no different from life imprisonment. In the original story, Yunning's talent wasn't exceptional.
His future husband was a genius, but even then,
He couldn't compare to Pei Jingyuan. From this alone,
it was clear Yun Hemming intended to sever the relationship completely. Jiang Minghuan touched the jade pendant and lay down happily. He wasn't going to save Yunning. Even if he intervened, Yun Hemming might relent due to his undercover mission. But why should he?
Yunning's so-called luck was built on others paying the price.
Besides the protagonist Gong Jiangzhou, even geniuses like Pei Jingyuan and Zheng, Minghuan revolved around him, along with countless other outstanding men. Jiang Minghuan wanted nothing to do with such people.
Once he reached the Time Sword Pavilion, he would find a way to leave.
His family had subtly hinted in their letters that they hoped he would return home to inherit
The family fortune.
Now he finally had a path. The next morning, many people gathered outside Jiang Minghuan's courtyard, but it was eerily quiet.
Jiang Minghuan sat calmly as his junior sisters helped him adjust his attire.
Fortunately, today's wedding robes were in men's style.
Had it been phoenix crown and embroidered gown, he might have truly lost his temper.
Standing before the water mirror, he discovered that the vivid colors suited him remarkably well.
Golden crown, cloud-patterned boots.
The phoenix embroidery on his wedding. Robes seemed to come alive with each step. Those who came to send him off watched cautiously. They had known the chief disciple was handsome, but none expected him to be this striking. Those familiar with Jiang Minghuan were even more bewildered. His features hadn't changed, yet he seemed more radiant.
Even more eye-catching than Yunning. Jiang Minghuan ignored the gazes and waited quietly. Soon, a disciple hurried over.
Senior brother, the wedding procession has arrived, but...
But what? Jiang Minghuan asked.
The disciple lowered his head. The pavilion master of the Time Sword Pavilion did not come in person. A sword master has come instead.